Would you like more money? That might sound like a trick question to some people, but to some, people aren't driven by money yet. If I was to offer you £1 million, you might not say no. Because let's face it, all of us would welcome more money if we could. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode because I am reflecting on the year, thinking about next year, what I'd like to earn. And it's got me thinking about how I have managed to increase my income over the years. And there are three areas that I really focus on when it comes to generating more cash. And I want to share those with you in today's episode. We are going to be focusing on best year yet in January. And this is the kind of work that I do in preparation for those workshops. You can sign up right now and I'll send you the prep that I work through to get me really fired up and focused on what it is I want from my finances, my life, and my art, and designing my own life. And I want to share that with you in the Best Year Yet workshops, which is free to take part. And you can go and sign up now. The link is in the comments and you can get the prep straight away. And in this episode right now, I want to share those three tips with you of what I'll be focusing on. And I want to share a little bit of a backstory around how I've managed to get to this point because for years, I spent a lot of time hitting a ceiling in terms of what I was able to earn. So I had jobs throughout my life and I was always at the low bracket in my jobs and I could never get past, it was £21,000 a year. I always seemed to hit that amount and could not get past that. And every job that I had, there was always a reason why we can't give you a pay increase because you don't have this qualification and you're not good at this. And even when I set up my own business years ago, I still could not pass that threshold. I couldn't get past it. And I ended up convincing myself that I would never earn or generate over £21,000 a year because I'm broken, because I have dyslexia and ADHD, and I'm not capable. And I literally convinced myself of that. And then I remember when I ended up setting up United Art Space and we first wanted to sell our course, Make Your Mark. And I remember sitting there trying to sell it and getting to the point of giving people the price. And I just wanted to vomit. And I felt so awful that I was trying to sell something. And in that moment, I realized that, oh my gosh, I have an issue with money. And I think that's one of the biggest realizations I've ever had. And that is number one tip, is making friends with money. And this isn't something that you just do and then that's it, we tick it off the list. It's something that I'm continually bringing myself back to. How do I feel about money? And am I repelling money? Am I making money a big issue? Am I becoming desperate about money? And I really check in with how I'm feeling about it, because how we feel about money does influence how we earn it and how we handle money. So this time of year for me is a check-in and it's a reframe. And back then I had to do a lot of work around money because I had guilt around earning money. I had guilt around asking for it. I realized that I had some childhood memories of asking for things that cost and we couldn't afford it as a child. I come from a working class background. Money was tight. We didn't have money to spend on clubs and things, and so I then had this fear as an adult, and I didn't realize it came from my childhood. So that's quite deep, and you don't have to go that deep, but it's recognizing how you feel and what is your relationship around money at the moment. Because if it is a negative relationship around money, it's time to reframe that and see money as a great thing. It is a great thing. It's an energy, it's a transaction, it's something that we need as people to survive. It, like, we need water, we need money, and we need to reframe how we feel about that. And money comes and it goes, and it can be such a beautiful thing. When you have money, you can do great things with money. In the right hands, money is great. And it's okay for you to earn money, and it's okay to have a lot of money if that's what you want. So it's reframing these feelings that you have around money and recognizing whether you are repelling it without realizing. Because I see people say that I'm not motivated by the money, and that's okay to not be motivated by the money. But being careful then of the language we use around that of I don't need money, I don't want money, I'm not doing this for money, I just want to pay my bills. This is a big one. If you're saying that, you will only earn enough money to pay your bills. And so, and I've caught myself saying that recently as well, when I'm just feeling like I just want to take the pressure off, or maybe if I could just earn enough just to survive. But we don't want to be in that place where we're just surviving. I don't anyway. And so you have to be careful about what you are saying and putting out into the world, because that's what will happen. And so that's the first tip I recommend, is making friends with money, recognizing how you feel about it and reframing it and turning it around to being abundant as well, and not coming from a place of lack, even if that's the situation you're in. I remember being absolutely broke and hardly had any money to just survive and pay for the food. And I had to reframe in that moment and feel abundant in different ways and focus on I am abundant and I have all this richness in my life that wasn't money but other things, just to reframe how I was feeling, because I kept focusing on lack, lack, lack all the time. And where you focus your energy, that's what you'll get more of, more lack. So that's number one, make friends with money. Number two is make a money goal. So for a long time, I avoided this because I didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't know how to make a money goal. I now make money goals because if you say you want to go traveling, what does that mean? And sometimes if we say, I want more money, it's as broad as saying, I want to go traveling. And we don't know what that actually means. So until you define a goal and you understand what that actually means, how on earth will you know if you've achieved it, or how on earth will you know how to reach for that goal? So if you want more money, how much money do you want? How much money would you like? And it's starting to get a bit clearer on that. And I remember years ago when I first ever made a money goal, it was unrealistic. I wanted to earn all this money and I didn't hit the goal. And I now realize it's because it was unrealistic. But it got me going. That goal, that unrealistic goal, got me to really consider, how am I going to hit that goal? What am I going to do? I came nowhere near it, but I earned money that year because I had that goal in place and because I was aiming for it. And then what happened? I didn't hit it. But then I learned, what do I need to do if I want to hit that goal? I didn't hit it, but what could I do? And I kept going and kept going and kept going. And then I think it was 3 years or 4 years later, I hit that crazy goal that I set. Mind blowing, because I got past the 21K a year threshold and I proved myself wrong, that it's not because I'm broken. I just wasn't applying myself in the right way towards finances. And so making goals has been incredible for me. And it's not about getting hung up on the outcome. It's using the goal as a flag in the ground to say, this is the kind of money that I'd like to aim towards. How do I make this happen? And if you don't have a defined goal, you don't know the steps to get there. Because if you have a defined goal of making 30,000 a year, for example, um, if you wanted 30,000 a year, you could break that down into how many pieces of artwork you'd need to sell and what price point you'd need to sell them at. So 15 paintings a year at £2,000 or dollars or euros would, you can start to work out that's how many I would need to sell. If you wanted to make 24,000 a year, I worked this out earlier because I'm no good at maths. I literally had to work this out, and it's so obvious, but 100, if you sold them at £100, $100, €100, you'd need to sell 240 like miniature pieces. And I'm sharing this as a real life example of my friend Sharon, because she sells her miniature pieces at 100 and they don't take that long to make. You can, with a goal, you can start to figure out, okay, to earn this amount, I need to make this amount of pieces. You can look at your time and think that is doable, and I'd need to sell them at this price point. Now, you might not be able to start selling them at that price point straight away, but you have a goal to aim towards. And then you ask yourself, how can I sell my work at this price point? Because that's the goal that I'd like, that's what I'd like to earn. How can I make this happen? How can I sell them at that price point? How could I sell 240 of these a year? And when you have that goal and that determination then to figure it out, you have the plan and the next step, and you can ask people, this is how many which I'd like to make, and where can I sell these? So I like to make good, better, best goals. So I always have my good goal, which is what I need to earn to survive and to live. And then I have my best goal, which is the crazy goal. It's the goal that I just don't know on earth how I would ever hit that, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. And that's what I did years ago, and I hit it. And I had no idea how I was going to hit it. And then in the middle of that is my better goal, which sits in between the good and the best. So I'm always breaking it down, but really not disregarding the higher money, because when you plant the seed, crazy things can happen. And then once you've set that goal, you learn by doing. You might not hit it, but that isn't the point. It's learning from, why didn't I hit it? How can I hit it next time? What can I do? So you're asking the right questions. My final tip is, where focus goes, energy flows. And this is then bringing your energy towards money in a positive way. It's having that goal in mind, and it's focusing on money. If you want to earn more money, focus on more money. And here's some ways that you can do that. You can really start to cement this in a visual way. So I remember back in the day when I was reframing my relationship with money, I created an affirmation board, and I created all these affirmations around money and how I am abundant. And, it was all these crazy things, because I was just willing to try anything at that point, because I was struggling financially and I always kept hitting the ceiling. So I was at this point thinking, I'm just going to try anything, because at the end of the day, if it works, then that's great. And if it doesn't, I'm in the same situation anyway. So I had nothing to lose. So I created these affirmation boards. I started to change my passwords to my money goals. So my far reach goal, I made my password that. So I was thinking about it every time I put a password in. I'm thinking about my money goal. I put something on my bedside table to say, this is how much. I wrote it in the present tense. I wrote, I am earning a certain amount, and I'm doing this by. And this I got from Think and Grow Rich, because in the book Think and Grow Rich, it says to write, and this thing and leave it by your bed, where you say, it's December whatever in the future, I am earning whatever money it is. And it says to just not focus just purely on the money. And what are you doing to get that money? It's about an energy. Money is energy. It goes backwards and forwards. And so if you want to earn money, how will you do that? And it's by producing amazing artwork or art workshops. And I want to give back. Um, and so I wrote down, how I'd like to receive that and what I will give. And so that's what I started to do. I started to think about, what would I do with that money? I started to focus on the things that it would do to impact my life, the way it would change my life, the way I could invest it back and give back to people, in the way that I could improve my family situation and buy clothes for my children and things like that. I started to visualize, and I literally visualized. I'd close my eyes, and I did this near enough every day over a month period, where I just closed my eyes and I imagined myself earning money, and I imagine going shopping for the children and paying for it, and I have the cash, and I imagine my bank account was healthy, um and going shopping for food, not having to check every single item to make sure I haven't gone over budget. I'd sit and visualize that all the time. And I opened my mind as well to places that money could be. And this was a big one, because when you're setting money goals, sometimes you think that that's just not achievable. If you start to crunch the numbers and think, I could never make that amount of artwork, so that's never going to happen. It's about disregarding that part of yourself as well, and saying, okay, I can figure out how I could get to it, but it still feels like a far-fetched reach. There's still a gap here, and I just don't know how I'd reach that. You don't have to have it all figured out. And this is something I've learned over time, is if you know the next steps to get a little bit closer to that goal, that's great. Because what can happen is when you set that money goal, crazy things can start to happen. Like you'll get a grant, you might get given money. This has happened to me when I've set the intention. And I remember when I was doing all this work on money mindset and I was in a bad place financially. And I remember with my partner at the time, he said, well, this is going to be a big test to see whether this actually works. Because he thought I was crazy doing all these affirmation boards and reading books. And within 6 weeks, my income had like tripled. And he was like, wow, it really does work. Where focus goes, energy flows. I was shocked. And so this is why I take time to do this. Another thing is to really part of that visualization is to imagine your work being sold as well. I was listening to a podcast from an artist the other day, and he said that every time he makes an artwork, as he's making it, he's imagining it being sold. He's imagining it going into a home and someone buying it as soon as it's sold or before it's even sold. And he visualizes that and it happens. He sells them before he even finishes them. So he's constantly thinking about selling. Now, that goes back to the point that not everyone is driven by that. And so you don't have to go full throttle on thinking about money all the time. But this gives you a flavor of how you can start to make it a focus and knowing that sometimes we don't know how we'll get there, but crazy things start to happen. Becoming resourceful as well is another one where focus goes, energy flows. If there's something that you want, and this is what I've done for the whole of my life actually, before I learned about this money mindset stuff, is I remember if I wanted to go on a holiday or if I was invited to something and I didn't have quite the money, I would, rather than say no, I'd go, right, how can I make this happen? How can I get the money? And I've sold things, I've gone through all my stuff and gone, right, let's sell. I've just put things out there, becoming resourceful. When you ask yourself, instead of disregarding and saying, no, I can't do it, if you really want it, it's asking yourself, how can I make this happen? How could I get this money together? And I was listening to a couple the other day on a walk, and they were talking about, the husband wanted a car and the wife wanted a holiday, and they were kind of arguing about, which one should we have? And he was like, well, the car will bring this, and but she was like, the holiday will, give us the relaxing time that we need. And he said, but it's not an investment. And I could hear them going backwards and forwards, and I felt like turning around going, how about both? What do you need to do to buy both? And it's just such a mindset switch. And okay, both might not be possible, but ask the question anyway. What do we need to do if we want to buy both? If both are equally important to each of those people, ask the question, because crazy things start to happen. But it's when we disregard and we put limits that then we don't find the answer. So this can be difficult when you're living in the world we are right now, where money's tight and you're having to cut back. So this is why I wanted to share this episode, because it's about getting a balance. Of cutting back is great, and I do that at this time of year. I strip everything back. I think, how can I live in a more streamlined way to create more money to come in? That's how I want you to see it. If you're stripping back, it's because I want more money to come in. And feeling that, this is why I'm doing this, to allow more space for goodness and abundance to come into my life and more cash to flow in, and seeing it that way. So there we go. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. And if you want to join me in this journey of focusing on more money and focusing on more time and what you want from next year, please do join us in the Best Year Yet workshops that start in January. They run for 2 weeks. They're completely free to take part in the actual workshops, and they're delivered over video. And we spend 2 weeks as a whole group from around the world working on what we want from next year and designing our own lives and making it happen. We've had so much success over the years from these workshops. And if you sign up now, we'll send you the prep work straight away so you can start to reflect on the year just gone and beyond, and really start to think about what you want to bring forwards into the new year and park, shelve, reject, keep into the past. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining. I'll be back next week with some more motivation for you. Take care and have a wonderful week.